I sat in that corner for 20 minutes, maybe longer. Time moved strangely, like I was watching everything through water. People kept approaching Naya with gifts wrapped in expensive paper. Someone brought flowers, a massive arrangement that must have cost $200. Another woman presented her with a gift basket overflowing with wine bottles and gourmet cheese. Each time, Naya squealed and hugged them, thanking them loudly enough for the whole room to hear. Not one person approached me. Not one person asked whose birthday it was. I was invisible, a ghost at my own party. The DJ, an actual DJ with equipment and lights, started playing Naya's requested songs. She danced in the center of the room, her jumpsuit reflecting the colored lights, while everyone circled around her and cheered. Jamal stood off to the side, watching her with this anxious expression like he was waiting for her approval. My son, who used to dance with me in our kitchen to Aretha Franklin, couldn't even look in my direction. I pulled out my phone, thinking I'd text Patricia, tell her she was right. But my hands were shaking too badly to type. That's when I heard them. Two women stood directly behind my chair, their voices carrying over the music. They didn't know I was there, or maybe they didn't care. "Girl, this party is gorgeous," one said. "Naya knows how to do it right." "I know. She told me her husband really wanted to throw her something big. But you know how it is. Money's tight when you're just starting out." The other woman laughed. "So how'd they manage all this?" "Naya said Jamal convinced his mama to pay for it. Can you believe that? The woman must really love her son to drop this kind of cash." My blood went cold. That's sweet, though. Family helping family. Girl, if my mother-in-law offered to fund my party, I'd take it too. Naya's smart. They moved away, their laughter fading into the noise. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I fumbled with my phone, nearly dropped it, and finally managed to open my banking app. My password took 3 tries because my fingers wouldn't cooperate. The screen loaded, and there it was. 3 transactions, all dated within the last 2 weeks, all charged to my credit card. Party supplies and decorations, $1,847.29. Catering services, premium package, $2,156. Event rentals, DJ, equipment, furniture, $796.71. Total, $4,800. $4,800. I read the numbers again, then again. They didn't change. My emergency credit card, the one I'd given Jamal access to 5 years ago when he'd gotten stranded with a flat tire and no money. The one he'd promised he'd sworn on everything he would never use without asking me first. He'd stolen from me. There wasn't another word for it. He'd taken my money, thrown a party for his wife, and told everyone I'd generously offered to pay. Made himself look like the devoted husband. Made her look like the blessed daughter-in-law with the generous mother-in-law. Made me look like a fool. My vision blurred. I don't know if it was tears or rage or both, but suddenly I couldn't see straight. I stood up so fast the chair scraped against the hardwood floor. Several people nearby turned to look, but I didn't care. I had to find Jamal. He was near the kitchen, pouring drinks for some of Naya's friends. When he saw my face, his smile faltered. "Ma, when were you planning to tell me?" My voice came out low, controlled, dangerous. He set down the wine bottle. "Tell me what? About the $4,800 you charged to my card?" The color drained from his face. Complete, total, like someone had pulled a plug and everything that made him look alive just emptied out. Ma, listen, I can explain what? That you stole from me?" "I didn't steal, you used my credit card without my permission to pay for this party. What do you call that?" People around us stopped talking. The music still played, but conversations died. I felt eyes turning towards us, but I was past caring. Jamal grabbed my elbow and tried to steer me toward the hallway. Not here, please. Can we talk about this somewhere private? I jerked my arm away. Why? So you can lie to me quietly instead of in front of your wife's friends? Ma, please, you're making a scene. I'm making a scene? You throw a party with my money, tell everyone I paid for it willingly, and I'm the one making a scene? It wasn't supposed to be like this. He ran his hands over his face. I was going to pay you back, I swear. When? How? You can barely afford your rent. That hit something in him. His jaw clenched. We're doing fine. Are you? Then why did you need to steal from me? Naya appeared at his side, her champagne flute still in her hand, her expression cold. Okay, Miss Lorraine, I think you need to calm down. I turned to her slowly. Excuse me? You're being dramatic. Jamal borrowed some money. Family does that. It's not the end of the world. Borrowed? He didn't borrow anything. He took it without asking. She waved her hand dismissively. Same difference. What's yours is going to be his eventually anyway, right? Inheritance. So really, what's the big deal? The room went completely silent. Even the DJ seemed to sense something was happening and lowered the music. I stared at this woman, this stranger my son had married, and understood with perfect clarity that she had never seen me as a person, just as a resource, a bank account with legs, someone to be managed and manipulated until there was nothing left to take. And my son had let her. Worse, he'd helped her. I took a breath. My hands were steady now. The shaking had stopped. In its place was something harder, clearer. I said, you're right about one thing. What's mine will eventually be his. But that changes today. I turned and walked toward the center of the room. Let me take you back so you understand why that night cut so deep. I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, in a neighborhood where everybody knew everybody. Your business was community business, and that wasn't always bad. When my mama got sick, neighbors brought casseroles for 2 weeks straight. When I graduated high school, the whole block showed up. We looked out for each other. Respect wasn't something you had to teach. It was in the air you breathed. I married young, 22. To a man who promised me the world and delivered about half a neighborhood. Marcus was handsome, charming, the kind of man who could talk his way into anything and out of everything. For a while, I thought that was enough. Then Jamal came, my beautiful boy, with his father's smile and, I hoped, my sense of responsibility. But Marcus didn't want responsibility. He wanted freedom. When Jamal turned 5, Marcus sat me down at our kitchen table, looked me dead in the eye, and said he wasn't built for family life. Just like that. No fight, no other woman, just done. He left on a Tuesday morning while Jamal was at kindergarten. I had $400 in our checking account, a mortgage I couldn't afford alone, and a son who kept asking when Daddy was coming home. I didn't have time to fall apart. I got a second job, then a third. I learned how to fix the sink myself when it leaked. I learned how to stretch a chicken across 4 meals. I learned how to smile at my baby even when I wanted to scream. Jamal never went without. Maybe he didn't get the name brand sneakers, but his shoes fit. Maybe we didn't take vacations, but we had a home. I made sure he got into programs for kids who needed extra support. I drove him to tutoring sessions an hour away. I sat through every parent-teacher conference, every school play, every basketball game where he rode the bench. I wasn't perfect. Some nights I was so tired I fell asleep during his bedtime stories. Some mornings I snapped at him over nothing because I'd worked a double shift and slept 3 hours. But I showed up. Every single day I showed up. And he knew it. When Jamal got his college acceptance letter, he cried in my arms and said, "Ma, everything I am is because of you." I believed him.
That's the part that hurts the most. I believed him. We stayed close through his 20s. Sunday dinners at my place, phone calls just to talk. He'd stop by after work sometimes, eat whatever I'd cooked, and tell me about his day. My son was my friend. Then Naya walked into his life, and slowly, like water evaporating in the sun, he disappeared.
I pulled up to their house at 7:30 exactly. I'm never late. That's how I was raised. The first thing I noticed was the cars. 7, maybe 8 vehicles lined the driveway and spilled onto the street. I didn't recognize a single one. My stomach tightened, but I pushed the feeling down. Maybe Jamal had invited some family friends. Maybe he'd kept it a surprise. I grabbed my purse and the wine bottle, checked my lipstick in the rearview mirror one last time, and stepped out into the humid evening air. Music thumped from inside the house. Not the gospel I loved. Not the old school R&B Jamal and I used to dance to in our tiny living room when he was little. This was something else entirely. Heavy bass, loud vocals. The kind of music you play at a club, not a dinner party. My hand hesitated on the doorknob. Then I opened it. The noise hit me first. Laughter, conversation, glasses clinking. At least 30 people packed into the living room and kitchen, most of them holding drinks, all of them strangers. The smell of expensive perfume and cologne mixed with catered food, nothing like the home-cooked meal I'd been expecting. Then I saw the decorations. Pink and gold balloons clustered in every corner. Metallic streamers twisted from the ceiling. A balloon arch framed the entrance to the dining room and stretched across the entire back wall in giant foil letters that caught the light. "Congratulations, Nia!" My feet stopped moving. I stood there in the doorway, holding my bottle of wine like an idiot, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. This wasn't my birthday party. This wasn't even close. A woman in a tight red dress brushed past me, barely glancing my way. "Excuse me, hun," she said, heading straight for the drink table. I scanned the room for Jamal, for anyone I knew. Instead, I found Nia. She stood near the kitchen island in a sparkly white jumpsuit that probably cost more than my mortgage payment, her hair cascading down her back in perfect curls. She threw her head back laughing at something a man in a designer shirt said, one hand on her hip, the other holding a champagne flute. She looked like a bride. No, she looked like a woman who wanted everyone to know this was her night. My chest felt tight. My hands started to sweat. "Ma, you made it!" Jamal appeared from the crowd, weaving between guests with a strange smile on his face. He hugged me quickly, barely making contact, and I felt how tense his body was. What is this?" I managed to say. He glanced over his shoulder, then back at me. His eyes wouldn't quite meet mine. "Listen, Ma, there's been a small change of plans. We decided to combine your birthday with something really exciting for Nia." "Combine?" The word came out sharper than I intended, but he didn't seem to notice. "Yeah, she just finished her real estate licensing program, huge accomplishment, and we thought, why not celebrate both? Make it a really big thing." I stared at my son, really looked at him. The boy I'd raised to value honesty and respect stood in front of me lying through his teeth with a smile on his face. Before I could respond, Nia glided over, her jumpsuit catching the light with every step. "Miss Lorraine, I'm so glad you could make it. Isn't this amazing? Jamal really outdid himself." The way she said Miss Lorraine dripped with something I couldn't quite name. Not respect. Maybe mockery dressed up as politeness. "We figured, why have 2 separate parties, right?" She snapped her fingers, and the sound made me flinch. 2 birds, 1 stone. Efficient. That word, efficient, like I was a task to be checked off, an obligation to be handled with minimal effort. Where's my cake?" My voice came out weak. I cleared my throat. "Right there, Ma. We got your favorite, chocolate." I followed his finger and felt something inside me crack. Shoved against the wall on a folding TV tray sat a small rectangular cake. Store-bought. The frosting was that artificial blue that comes from a can. Someone had written "Happy Birthday Lorraine" across the top in shaky letters that looked like a child had done it in the car on the way over.
Next to it, dominating the dining room table, sat an enormous three-tiered cake covered in gold leaf and fresh flowers with "Congratulations to our rising star" written in perfect script. My cake was an afterthought, a check mark, a technicality so they could say they'd acknowledged my birthday. I couldn't breathe. The room felt too hot, too crowded, too loud. Every laugh around me sounded like it was at my expense. "Ma, you okay?" Jamal touched my arm. I pulled away. "I need a minute." I walked past them, past the strangers celebrating someone else's achievement, and found an empty chair in the corner where my pathetic little cake was sat, waiting for no one.
The call came on a Wednesday afternoon. I was in my garden pulling weeds from around my tomato plants when my phone rang. "Ma!" Jamal's voice sounded lighter than it had in months. "I've been thinking, your birthday's coming up, right?" My heart lifted. He remembered. "It is, baby. 3 weeks away. I want to do something special this year. How about we host dinner at our place? I'll handle everything. You just show up and enjoy yourself." I paused, my hands still covered in dirt. Nia didn't like me in her space. The last time I'd visited, back in January for their anniversary, she'd spent the entire evening glancing at the clock. After an hour and a half, she had yawned loudly and said she had an early morning. It was 7:30. "You sure Nia's okay with that?" I asked, carefully. "Of course. She's the one who suggested it, actually. We want to do this for you, Ma." Nia suggested it? Those 3 words should have set off alarms, but I was too hungry for connection to hear them properly. "All right, then," I said. "That sounds lovely." "Perfect. I'll text you the details closer to the date. Love you, Ma." "Love you too, baby." I went back to my tomatoes with soil under my nails and hope in my chest. Maybe I'd been wrong about Nia. Maybe she was trying. Maybe this was her way of extending an olive branch, and I needed to meet her halfway. That night, I called my best friend Patricia and told her about the dinner. "Girl, be careful. That woman hasn't liked you since day one. Why would she suddenly want to host your birthday?" "People change, Pat. Maybe she's finally coming around." Patricia made a sound that clearly said she didn't believe me. "Just keep your eyes open, that's all I'm saying." I should have listened. The next 3 weeks crawled by. Jamal barely called. When I texted to ask if I needed to bring anything, he'd reply with one word: "Nope." When I asked what time to arrive, he said 7:30. Nothing more. I told myself he was busy, preparing, planning, making sure everything was perfect. I bought a new dress, nothing too fancy, just a deep purple wrap dress that made me feel elegant. I got my hair done at the salon. I even bought a bottle of wine to bring, something nice to show appreciation for the effort. The morning of my birthday, I woke up alone like I had for the past 32 years, made myself coffee, and whispered a prayer of gratitude. 59 years. Still here, still standing. I had no idea that by midnight, I'd be questioning whether my son had ever really known me at all.
You spend decades raising a child alone, sacrifice everything to give them a better life, and one day they look you in the eye and steal from you without flinching. My name is Lorraine Parker. I'm 59 years old, and 3 weeks ago, my only son used my credit card to throw a $4,800 party for his wife and told everyone it was my birthday celebration. I didn't find out until I walked through the door and saw her name on the banner instead of mine. The betrayal didn't start that night, though. It had been growing quietly for 2 years, in small moments I convinced myself to ignore. The way my daughter-in-law said my name with her lips pressed tight. The way my son stopped calling unless he needed something. The way every conversation felt like I was interrupting their real life, the one I wasn't welcome in anymore. But that night, standing in their living room, surrounded by strangers celebrating someone else while my name sat on a grocery store cake shoved in the corner, something inside me finally cracked. I raised my son by myself, His father walked out when Jamal was 5, left me with a mortgage, a car that barely ran, and a little boy who kept asking when Daddy was coming home. I worked double shifts as a social worker, stretched every dollar until it screamed, went without so he could have new shoes for school pictures. I sat with him through homework tears and teenage heartbreak. I taught him how to tie a tie before his first job interview. I thought I taught him respect, too. Turns out, I was wrong about that last part. When Jamal called me 3 weeks before my birthday and said he wanted to host dinner at his house, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Maybe things were finally changing. Maybe his wife was warming up to me. Maybe I'd get my son back, even just for one evening. I should have known better. The moment I stepped inside that house, I knew. You know how your body understands danger before your brain catches up? That's what happened. My chest tightened. My hands went cold. The air felt wrong, like walking into a room right after people stopped talking about you. Pink and gold balloons everywhere. A DJ setting up in the corner. Women in heels I didn't recognize, holding wine glasses, laughing at jokes I wasn't part of. And right there, stretched across the back wall in letters too big to miss, "Congratulations, Nia." Not "Happy birthday, Lorraine." Not "Celebrating Mom." Just her name. Shining. Central. Unavoidable. I stood there in my church dress, the nice one I save for special occasions, holding a purse with my reading glasses and my phone and a little bit of faith I should have left at home. My feet wouldn't move. My throat closed up. For a few seconds, I actually thought I'd walked into the wrong house. Then my son appeared, grinning like nothing was wrong, and said the words that would break something in me I didn't know could break. "Ma, you made it. We combined your birthday with Nia's real estate celebration. 2 birds, 1 stone." 2 birds, 1 stone. Like I was something that needed to be dealt with efficiently. Like 59 years of life, of survival, of sacrifice, could be squeezed into the margins of someone else's achievement party. I didn't cry. Not then. But I did start planning. Because sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones you loved the hardest. And sometimes the only way they learn is when you finally stop protecting them from the consequences of their choices.
2 months passed. I didn't reach out to Jamal, and after that day at my house, he stopped reaching out to me. Patricia said I should feel guilty about the silence, that he was still my son, still my blood, and family didn't give up on family. But I'd spent too many years confusing love with tolerance, mistaking sacrifice for duty, believing that being a good mother meant accepting whatever my child chose to do to me. I was done with that version of myself. I joined a new book club, started volunteering at the community center teaching financial literacy to young mothers, spent my mornings in my garden and my evenings on my porch with a glass of wine and a good novel. For the first time in decades, my life was mine alone. No one else's crisis dictating my peace. No one else's choices determining my worth. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon in early October, my phone rang. "Ma?" Jamal's voice sounded hollow, empty. "What's wrong?" Despite everything, my mother's instinct kicked in immediately. "Nia left." I closed my eyes. "When?" "Last week. She'd been planning it for a while, I think. I came home from work and half her stuff was gone. She left a note saying she couldn't do this anymore, that she needed someone who could give her the life she deserved." "I'm sorry, baby." "Are you?" His voice held no accusation, just genuine curiosity. "Yes, I never wanted your marriage to fail, Jamal. I wanted you to be happy. I just didn't want to be disrespected while you tried to make someone else happy." He was quiet for a moment. "She took everything, Ma. The furniture we bought together, the TV, most of the kitchen stuff. She even took the security deposit money I'd been saving." "Can you afford the apartment alone?" "No, I'm moving back in with Marcus." Marcus, his college roommate who lived with 3 other guys in a house that always smelled like old pizza and disappointment. "How are you holding up?" Honestly, I feel like an idiot. She left me the second the money stopped coming. The second she realized you weren't going to bail us out anymore. And I kept telling myself she loved me, that she was just stressed about money, that once things got better, we'd be okay. She showed you who she was, Jamal. You just didn't want to see it. I know. And I showed you who I'd become. Someone who'd steal from his own mother to keep a woman who never really wanted me. My chest tightened. You didn't steal to keep her. You stole because you were afraid. Afraid of being alone. Afraid of admitting you'd made a mistake. Afraid of disappointing me even more than you already had. I did disappoint you, though. Yes, you did. He exhaled shakily. I don't know how to fix this, Ma. You don't fix it overnight. You fix it by showing up differently, by making different choices, by rebuilding trust one honest conversation at a time. Can I come see you sometime? Not now. I know I don't deserve it now. But maybe in a few weeks? I just want to talk. Really talk. No lies, no excuses. I thought about it. Weighed the part of me that wanted to protect my peace against the part of me that still remembered rocking him to sleep when he was 3 years old and scared of thunderstorms. Call me in 2 weeks, I said. We'll have lunch. But Jamal, if you lie to me again, about anything, even something small, we're done. I mean that. I understand. Thank you, Ma, for not giving up on me completely. I'm your mother. Giving up isn't in my nature. But I won't be used again, and I won't be disrespected. Those days are over. I know. I get it now. I really do. We hung up, and I sat on my porch watching the sunset over my garden. The tomatoes were doing well this year. The roses I'd planted in spring had bloomed twice already. Everything I'd nurtured with my own hands was thriving. I'd spent so much of my life growing other people. Maybe it was time to see what I could become when I finally put myself first. 3 weeks later, Jamal came for lunch. He brought flowers. Not expensive ones, just daisies from the grocery store, and looked me in the eye when he apologized again. We didn't fix everything that afternoon, but we started. And sometimes that's enough. Here's what I learned from all of this, and I hope you never have to learn it the way I did. Love without respect is just another word for tolerance. And you can love someone deeply, completely, unconditionally, and still refuse to let them hurt you. Those two things can exist at the same time. Your boundaries aren't selfish. They're survival. When you teach people that your peace, your money, your time, and your dignity are negotiable, they'll negotiate them right down to nothing. And they'll convince themselves they're entitled to do it because you never stopped them before. Family doesn't get a free pass to mistreat you. Being blood-related doesn't grant unlimited access to your resources or permission to disrespect you. The people closest to you should treat you better than strangers would, not worse. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone experience the consequences of their choices. I wasn't punishing Jamal when I blocked those cards. I was stepping back and letting him see what his life actually looked like without me as his safety net. That was a gift, even though it hurt both of us. Your sacrifices should never become expectations. I worked hard to give my son opportunities I never had. But somewhere along the way, my sacrifices became something he felt entitled to rather than grateful for. That was partly his fault, but it was also partly mine for never teaching him where generosity ends and exploitation begins. And finally, you can forgive someone and still maintain boundaries. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending it never happened. It means releasing the anger so it doesn't poison you, while still protecting yourself from future harm. I don't know what the future holds for me and Jamal. Maybe we'll fully rebuild what we had. Maybe we'll create something new and different. Maybe we'll stay at this careful distance forever. But I know this,
I'll never again confuse love with obligation, and I'll never again sacrifice my dignity for someone else's comfort. Not for anyone. Not even for my son.
I woke up the next morning to 47 missed calls and 63 text messages, all from Jamal. I made coffee first, sat at my kitchen table in my bathrobe and drank it slowly while my phone buzzed like an angry hornet on the counter. Only when I'd finished the entire cup did I finally look at the messages. Ma, please call me. Why did you block the cards? My account is negative. Nia's car payment bounced. They're threatening to repo. Ma, please, we need to talk. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. Just unblock the cards and we can figure this out. Ma, you're going to ruin us. That last one made me laugh. Actually, laugh out loud in my empty kitchen. I was going to ruin them. Not the lies, not the theft, not the disrespect. Me, for finally saying no. I was about to delete the whole thread when my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. Local area code. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Miss Lorraine, this is Diane, Nia's mother. I sat up straighter. In 2 years of Jamal's marriage, I'd met this woman exactly twice. Both times, she'd been polite but distant, like she wasn't sure what to make of me. Diane, I wasn't expecting to hear from you. I know, and I'm not calling to defend what happened. I wanted you to know I had no idea they were planning that. Nia called me this morning crying about what you did, and when I finally got the truth out of her, she sighed heavily. Miss Lorraine, I'm embarrassed. If my daughter used your money without permission, then she was wrong. Period. My throat tightened. I hadn't expected this. I appreciate you saying that. I raised her better than this. I really did. And for what it's worth, I think you did exactly what you should have done. We talked for 10 more minutes. When we hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt since walking into that party. Not quite vindication, but close. A week passed before Jamal showed up at my door. I watched him through the window as he got out of his car. He looked terrible. His shirt was wrinkled, he had dark circles under his eyes, his shoulders slumped forward like he was carrying weight he couldn't put down. Good. He knocked 3 times. Soft, tentative. Nothing like the confident way he used to walk into my house without knocking at all. I opened the door, but didn't invite him in. Ma? His voice cracked on the word. Can we talk, please? I studied his face, looked for the manipulation, the excuses, the blame he'd try to shift onto me, but all I saw was exhaustion and shame. 5 minutes, I said, stepping aside. He walked in like he wasn't sure he was allowed to, stood in my living room with his hands in his pockets, looking everywhere except at me. He said finally, I'm sorry, Ma, I'm so sorry. I messed up. I know I did. Sorry for what specifically? I want to hear you say it. He flinched. For using your card without asking. For lying to you. For making you feel like you didn't matter. His voice broke. For choosing Nia over you. I crossed my arms. Why did you do it? I don't... Yes, you do. Tell me the truth, Jamal. You owe me that much. He was quiet for so long I thought he might leave. Then he sank onto my couch and put his head in his hands. I didn't just use your card for the party, Ma. My stomach dropped. What else? Nia lost her job 4 months ago. The words hit me like cold water. What? She got fired from the marketing firm. Some issue with a client. I don't know all the details. She made me promise not to tell anyone, especially not you. Why especially not me? He looked up, and his eyes were red. Because she said you'd judge her, that you'd use it against her, that you already didn't like her, and this would just prove you were right to not like her. I sat down slowly in the chair across from him. So you've been covering her expenses. Her student loans, her car payment, credit cards, everything. He wiped his face. I thought it would just be temporary. She kept saying she was applying for jobs, going to interviews, but nothing was coming through, and the bills kept piling up. How much what? How much of my money have you been using? He couldn't look at me. About $15,000 over the past 3 months. $15,000. I thought I might be sick. The party was just the biggest single charge. The rest was smaller amounts, a few hundred here, 1,000 there. I kept telling myself I'd pay you back once Nia got a new job. You stole $15,000 from me. I know. You stole from your mother to keep your wife's secrets. Ma, I was trying to hold my marriage together. His voice rose, then immediately fell. I know how that sounds, I know, but you don't understand the pressure. Then help me understand. He stood up, started pacing. She threatened to leave me multiple times, said if I couldn't provide for her, if I couldn't make her happy, then what was the point? And the party, God, the party. He laughed bitterly. She said if I didn't throw her something big for finishing that program, something that showed everyone how proud I was of her, she was done. I felt cold all over. So you chose to betray me instead of calling her bluff. I love her, Ma. Love isn't supposed to cost you your integrity, baby. He stopped pacing, looked at me with tears streaming down his face. I know that now, but by the time I realized what I'd done, I was in too deep. Every time I used your card, I told myself it would be the last time, that I'd tell you eventually, that I'd make it right. But you never did. No, I never did. We sat in silence. The clock on my wall ticked steadily, the same rhythm it had kept for 20 years. Everything in my house was exactly where it had always been, but the relationship between us had shifted so completely that we might as well have been strangers. I asked, "Is there anything else? Any other secrets you're keeping?" He shook his head. "That's everything. I swear on my life, that's everything. Your word doesn't mean much to me anymore." He nodded, accepting that. "What do you want me to do?" I stood up and walked to my front door and opened it. "I want you to leave. I want you to figure out how to fix your marriage without using me as your bank account. And I want you to understand that what you destroyed doesn't get rebuilt just because you finally told the truth." He walked to the door, stopped in the threshold. "Do you still love me?" My heart broke all over again. Of course I do. I'm your mother. But love and trust aren't the same thing. And trust takes time to earn back. How much time? I don't know yet. He nodded and walked to his car. I watched him drive away, then close the door and locked it. This time, the tears that came were different. They were for the son I used to have and the man I no longer recognized.
I didn't go inside when I got home. I sat in my driveway with the engine running, my phone in my lap, and made the calls that would change everything. The first one was to my bank's after-hours line. A woman named Teresa answered, her voice professional and kind. "I need to report unauthorized charges and remove an authorized user from all my accounts," I said. "I can help you with that, ma'am. Can you verify your identity for me?" I went through the security questions on autopilot. Date of birth, last 4 of my social, my mother's maiden name. Each answer felt like I was dismantling something I'd built with my own hands. "All right, Mrs. Parker, which cards would you like to address?" "All of them. Every single one." There was a pause. "And the authorized user you'd like to remove?" "Jamal Parker, my son." Another pause, longer this time. Teresa had probably heard every kind of family drama through that phone line, but something in my voice must have told her not to ask questions. "I understand. I'm going to block the cards immediately and remove his access. You'll receive new cards in 7 to 10 business days." "Thank you. Is there anything else I can help you with tonight?" I thought about it, really thought about it. This was the moment. Once I said yes, Once I went further, there was no taking it back. Yes, I said, I need to remove him from my savings account, my checking account, and any account where he has view or transfer privileges. I can process that right now. Give me just a moment. I listened to her typing, clicking, the soft sounds of my son's access to my life being systematically erased. All set, Mrs. Parker. Is there anything else I can help you with? That's everything. Thank you, Teresa. You're welcome. And ma'am, I hope tomorrow is better. I ended the call and sat there in the dark. My house looked the same as when I'd left it that morning. Same porch light, same flowers in the planter boxes, but I wasn't the same person who'd driven away excited for a birthday dinner. I'd spent 59 years learning how to be strong, how to survive, how to keep giving when I was empty. Tonight, I learned something different. I learned how to stop. My phone buzzed. A text from Jamal. Ma, can we please talk about this? I turned off my phone, went inside, and locked the door behind me. Let him wait. I'd waited long enough. If you'd told me a year ago that fainting at work would be the best thing that ever happened to me, I would have called you crazy. But it's true. That collapse forced everything hidden into the light. It shattered the walls my daughter and I had built between us. It revealed secrets we'd been too afraid to share. And it gave us permission to stop pretending we were fine when we were falling apart. Here's what I learned. Pride will make you suffer in silence. It'll convince you that needing help makes you weak, that asking for support means you failed, that carrying everything alone is somehow noble. But it's not. It's just lonely. Misunderstandings will destroy the relationships you care about most if you let them. When you assume the worst instead of asking questions, when you hide your struggles because you don't want to burden people, when you mistake independence for strength, you lose the very people who would have helped you carry the weight. My daughter and I almost lost each other because we were both too proud to admit we needed help, too scared to be vulnerable, too convinced that love meant never being a burden. But real love, real family, it's not about being perfect or self-sufficient. It's about showing up honestly, about saying, I'm struggling and I need you without shame, about rebuilding trust one conversation at a time. Sometimes life has to knock you flat before you realize you were never meant to stand alone. And sometimes the people you think have abandoned you are actually drowning right beside you, just waiting for permission to reach out and hold on. Don't wait for a crisis to be honest with the people you love. Don't let pride steal years you could have spent healing together. Because at the end of the day, we all need each other. And that's not weakness. That's being human.